Hi and welcome to 2010, our first TOOP TV for the year. Today we're looking at the highlights of 2009. We have CFS Coordinator Brenton Eden looking at fireproofing your property. We look at some of the best sales in the state of last year in SA's finest. We'll also head down and look at some magnificent property, and then we look at Inside Story and some of the biggest issues of 2009. Enjoy.
Oh, well, they've got more money to spend. We've obviously got a cheaper market here in Adelaide, and I think it's good value for money.
I was watching a TV program where they were suggesting that people in Melbourne in particular are buying houses and just leaving them vacant. Overseas investors, so that's not helping to house people in South Australia, and it's artificially putting the price up.
Well, people have got more capacity to buy properties. The price at the moment in South Australia is lower than all the other states for medium price. So there's more of a demand here because people can afford it, and whether the first time buyer's grant exists or not, people are still going to be buying property.
The best way I find houses would be just researching it on the internet.
Going around through newspapers and on foot yourself, really looking at it. Well, I think you get a feel for a place, whereas on the internet, it's all rather glossy.
Well, we mostly use the internet. Well, it's just convenient. You can set up your alerts, exactly what you want, and then you're not looking at lots of houses that aren't appropriate for you. And you can see the floor plans and everything, and so you know if it's actually worth inspecting or not. It saves you a lot of time.
I think we just like a bit of space around us. We don't want to be maintaining gardens and things, so we just like to get a lot of people purchasing smaller blocks and just building massive houses. I think it's a lifestyle choice.
I mean, the population density of Australia is pretty low, so perhaps I suppose people are utilising the space we've got available. I suppose it's helping the urban sprawl. I know Adelaide's certainly heading north and south very, very fast, and probably having an effect like that.
Now, with summer fast approaching, it's time to think about fireproofing our properties. And we're not just talking about acreage, we're talking about suburban properties. And joining me here today, from the front lines, if you like, is Brenton Eden. Hello, Brenton.
Hello, Anthony.
Now, Brenton, just for the viewers, just a quick rundown of your part in the equation of country fires.
I'm one of the state coordinators for the Country Fire Service, so on a roster throughout the year. So
you've been pretty heavily involved with regard to 2 weeks ago, last week, with the fires and that. What's it looking like? There seems to be a whole new paradigm in terms of fires with what's happening at the moment. Just talk to us about what's changed since last year.
Well, I think your viewers would recognise that since last year we've moved into a new national approach to warning the community, and last week with the declaration of catastrophic fire bans, the first issued in Australia, we really raised the profile on how we're trying to get the community to be aware of the forthcoming fire danger season.
Now, I did notice talking to Koshi on Channel 7 National last week, and there was mention of Prepare, Act, Survive. Now, what does that mean in practical terms?
What that means in practical terms is that's the trigger we're asking the community to recognise now, to say well before the event, prepare the actions that you will need to take today, tomorrow and into the future to make sure that you can survive if you're in a bushfire prone area or even travelling through a bushfire prone area.
Now, you talked about the catastrophic rating last week. That sort of really cut through for me, and it was a bit scary, to be honest. There is a national fire danger warning system of extreme and catastrophic. Talk to us about that.
Okay, well, your viewers would be aware that last year we declared fire bans, and we declare them when we get to a fire danger index, a number of 50. This year we've moved to 2 scales beyond that because we've realised the fires in Victoria, our previous Wangari fires, the fires of Canberra are showing extreme fire behaviour well above what we're used to. It's probably an impact of climate change and other events. So we've now brought in a catastrophic fire danger warning, which comes in when the fire danger index is 100, and I guess that's the one that's creating most of the community interest or concern.
So just to give us some reference point, the fires of last week, the index of 100 is catastrophic. At what rate or what number was that rated at?
Last week we had fire danger indexes of 215 in Port Augusta by quarter to 11 in the morning. So people who think that we're going to see extreme fire behaviour late in the afternoon on a typical summer day, it's not the case. We can get extreme fire behaviour early in the morning, and that's why we're saying in our new warnings, prepare, act and survive. It may mean you've left that area the day before.
Just a matter of interest, what was the slogan last year? Was it the same?
No, it wasn't. Last year we had the slogan Stay and Defend. The Victorian fires really focused us on whether the stay was the key message, and I guess from a marketing point, the key message now is that very first word, prepare.
So let's say that we live in a fire area. By the way, just define for me, it's not just farms, is it? What's a fire area?
Well, a fire area is now recognised as anywhere from the urban fringe out into the rural community. Think back to the fires of Canberra. Those residents in Canberra would have thought, I'm a metropolitan citizen, I'm living in a suburb, this is a rural issue, this is a bushfire, we don't have bushfires in urban areas. Canberra showed that to devastating results. So bushfire areas, we are now saying, are those areas which are declared but have high fuel loadings, but so much of the Adelaide area is bordered by these zones.
So does that basically run us from Athelston around the hills through to Belair and Coromandel Valley, or?
Well, for the metropolitan area, for sure, but there are high fuel loads, as we're aware, in the Clare Valley of last week, significant fires, Lower Eyre Peninsula, the Flinders Ranges, wherever you've got large amounts of vegetation and inhabitants mixing in the same spot, you've got fire danger ratings that people need to be aware of.
So we're talking about a lot of people. How do these people find out about their fire warning? Where do they find out?
In terms of their fire warning, they'll find out the day before, and sometimes 48 hours before. The Bureau will give a warning that the following 2 days we may see catastrophic fire behaviour. But the day before, around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the Country Fire Service will issue fire bans, and our fire bans now are enhanced from what they were last year. We will say whether the rating is extreme, severe or catastrophic. And so the community need to be listening to the media, looking at websites, particularly the CFS website, so they're aware of what's coming in the next 24 hours.
So just on that for the viewers, the CFS website is what?
cfs.sa.gov.au, and I guess if you can't remember that, Google South Australian Country Fire Service and it'll come up.
Right, okay, I'll come back to that perhaps, but there have been complaints about the warnings. What's the problem?
Look, I think it's part of change management. There were a lot of complaints last week about the warnings, that they come too late, and people would like them earlier in the day, particularly the forecast for catastrophic. The Bureau of Meteorology are responsible for doing all that mathematics and working out when fire bans can be imposed, and we don't get that information until 4 o'clock. So it's not likely that we'll get them any earlier. So the lateness is a concern, and that's why we're making every attempt to get it on the media and websites as soon as fire bans have been declared.
So say it's declared, is there now a shift in your thinking? It seems that you're looking at people having personal responsibility rather than just handing that over to the CFS?
Absolutely. This is about community resilience, and it's about that community, which is a collection of individuals, being able to survive a potentially hazardous situation. And the CFS will not always be at that location when they're most needed. They may well be elsewhere. So we want the community to recognise that they now have to take some responsibility, a lot of responsibility, for their own fire safety.
Is that the big difference now, the gap between the Metropolitan Fire Service perhaps and the CFS, the Country Fire Service?
I guess it's not so much of a gap, but in terms of the Metropolitan Fire Service, generally if a single dwelling catches on fire, you'd expect the fire truck to be there very, very quickly.
Okay.
When you've got hundreds of fires burning across the state, it's just not possible to put either an MFS or a CFS appliance or an aircraft there to protect your individual property.
Now, Brenton, let's assume that we can't rely on others. What preparation do you recommend this time of the year in a real practical sense?
Practical sense, this time of the year, what we would call passive activities. Get around your property, get around the house, make sure it's ember proof, look at the vegetation that's up to 20 metres away from your dwelling and say, do I need to remove that? Can I cut it down, prune it? Have I got water supplies around the place? All that general housekeeping is much more important to be doing now, but people will move into the active phase, and the active phase is those who will put fire suppression systems on their houses, they'll go out and buy pumps, they'll go and buy knapsacks, and they'll prepare themselves.
Well, Brenton, that's been absolutely sensational. Thank you for joining us on TOOP TV, and I hope that we do in fact play a very vital role in educating the consumer.